So about 4 days ago, I ignorantly went and stood out in the cold for 15 or 20 minutes, breathing icy air when it was kind of like a cold snap and it had been warm, wasn't ready for it. And the moment I got back in the vehicle, I could feel my sinuses just burning from the cold. I was like, great, this is going to be wonderful. Woke up the next day with a sore throat and a stuffy nose. Now the stuffy nose is gone, the sore throat's gone, but I sound like this. Heaven help anybody that hears me. They probably think I'm ravaged with COVID. Let's hope that's not the case. No other symptoms. But with that in mind, man, I got all kind of work to do. And not a lot of time to do it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean up this awful mess that's accrued during the time when I haven't been able to come out here and get stuff done in a timely fashion. So let's clean up. A while back, I had the opportunity to mold the hand and foot of my niece. Okay, so I did that. I took a mold of her hand and mold of her foot, and did the mold so I could get a reverse image of this. And after trimming down that hand and foot, what I end up with is something along these lines here. All right, so I've got a foot, I've got a hand. These are not in their final form. You can see some pencil line on this and some kind of furriness between the fingers. I mold these with a liquid plastic polymer, and it's so messy to deal with, so messy, but it works so good. I mean, you know, they're solid, and it is such a weird thing. So pour it after it's been mixed very well. I really need a vacuum chamber, but it works well enough as it is. But after you pour it, it'll sit for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Then it'll just turn rock solid. You know, most epoxy, it takes a little time for it to go off, and it goes off slowly. But this two-part liquid plastic stuff, man, is really quite amazing. So what I'm going to do here today for you is I'm going to go through this hand and foot, and I'm going to finish them up, get them really nice and pretty. We're going to go through them and apply some liquid gilding. All right, make them just a beautiful gold color. This is a little deeper. So it's not like a super bright gold. It's a kind of a deeper gold. And then we're going to clean up some wooden ovals, if you will, and stain them and make them really pretty. And then we're going to mount those hands and feet to these wooden ovals. So yeah, that's what we're doing. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a huge mess because this stuff is such a mess to work with once it's solid. It throws out these fibers and they just get everywhere. So make sure and wear some sort of respiratory protection. I'm going to cover my whole face except my eyes because it just gets everywhere. And I'll be covered in this stuff. I'm wearing my shirt that is to get covered in things right now. And I'm going to buckle up all my sleeves and things, and it's going to be some fun vacuuming. You can actually see these little white fibers over here on my drill press. That's from the last time I did this, months ago. They just get everywhere and they stay. So yeah, let's get to it. One of the goals here is not to get too aggressive. If you get too aggressive on your cuts, you just end up making notches. See, I gotta keep it kind of flat, right? You can see we got a lot of weird stuff going on back here, so I gotta cut off a lot of this to make it look right. So if you pick this up and you look at it, you can almost see the ridge there. I'm working that ridge down, try to get it smaller. Now for the way less fun part. Now is time for everyone's favorite part of any project. The part that just, makes everything better. Always better when you're doing what we're about to be doing. And that is working by hand. So what I'm doing is I'm setting up some tooling here so that we can work on our hand and foot while having appropriate support for the parts themselves. So I forget what this is called, but what you can see here is I've got a V cut into this so that I can take my hand and set it there. I can take my variety of small files and things that I've got to clean up before we do the work. And like for instance, this, bad file. Here we go. This is a very sharp kind of V-shaped file. I can come in here and see how this will fit in there. I can fit these together and I'm fully supported. When I'm sanding, I'm fully supported so I don't accidentally, yank a finger off of this and break it, because I can't make more of these. One is done. So I can't break it. So I can hold this very gently and do the work and prevent any damage. So let's get to it. Brush to start this off so I can check the progress. Nothing beats sandpaper. Again, by doing this with my hands, it really changes the final product. You get more of an organic appearance. My only worry is that the heat from my hand could deform this plastic. That would obviously be bad. And we're not going for perfect. We're just going for better. You'd think after this I'd be a fantastic person to give one a manicure. All right. All right, that's a hand and a foot. But so it turns out that my wife owns a number of these like super cheap old airbrush kits from back in the day, probably 20 years ago plus. Probably means they don't work anymore, but we're not guaranteed that they don't work anymore. So you know what that means. I'm gonna try to make them work. Let's see if I can hook one of these up to an air compressor. Exciting. Check out what I found. So my wife and these airbrush kits, and they take something, this tiny little nozzle. Well, I have a little converter that'll screw into that nozzle like that. But then I got another problem. I found another little converter that'll screw in like that. But then I got to get this to look like that. And I got another little converter that will let me hook this up to my air compressor. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is a Christmas miracle. Alright, I've got 100 psi in there from the directions in these old kits. They like to run around 30 psi, so we're going to set our regulator there. We got another problem. We have old paint. These have never been cleaned. Jeez, it's like dusting out of there. So that obviously isn't going to work. The whole reason we're doing this is to not have a lot of brush strokes, I guess you might say, brush strokes and things in our paint work. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean up these parts. Now we run into a problem here. That problem is these parts have little rubber O-rings on them. I don't want to mess those up. I also don't want to go blind because I'm spraying this carb cleaner. We'll put on some glasses. And to be frank, we're going to hope for the best. Let's just see what we get. My fittings are leaking. Just kind of to be expected considering I put no Teflon tape on them. Because I don't really care about this. Oh. I wish I could regulate this a little better. Well, I think the only thing left to do is put some paint in it. Put some paint in it, and we'll see if it'll do anything for us. Today, in the world of small miracles, we find that the little jars that are used to hold paint for this airbrush kit are almost identical to the little jar that my paint comes in. So what we're going to do is we're going to shake our paint back up real good. We're going to find us a nice test piece. We're going to see if we can keep it in this jar. What I have here is an old brush, baby's head brush, that I use to brush off things here in the garage. And we're going to paint that brush gold. Better or for worse. Let's see what happens. Problem with this paint is it does not like to stay mixed at all. It does not like to stay mixed, ladies and gentlemen. That's life. How is this supposed to work? Oh my God, it works. Color me surprised. Surprising? I mean, come on. my surprise level is incredibly elevated. I even got some paint on the lens. Look at that. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we're gonna give it a try. That we're just gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what this looks like. Here we go.